Hello everybody, welcome back to CivHaus. I'm Rob, and today we're going to be going over the content roadmap that Civilization 7 just released in the last few hours, since at least the recording of this video. I'm really excited to be going over this with you today because I think there's a lot that we can dissect from it. But before we dive in, I'm going to ask that you make sure to like if you end up enjoying this content, and that you subscribe if you enjoy Civilization content, as we are putting out new stuff over at the CivHaus channel on a regular basis. As a quick reminder as well, we are a part of the Game House, the whole thing. This is just a smaller, channel right now that's dedicated just to Civilization 7 content. And lastly, just let me know in the comment section below which part of this you are most excited for. We're going to start off here, obviously, February 6th. That's the big date. That's coming up here very shortly, or depending on when you've watched this, it has already happened. That's when you can get the early access to the game. February 11th as well is when the actual launch will come out if you don't feel like getting the early access and paying for it. It's a little bit different, obviously, but since they say that there's a day 0 patch that will be live at that point, the game may be a little different. Patches may be added as time goes on, but that's what we're looking at for the initial release. March, though. March is where things start to get really interesting, depending on which version you buy, because you can buy, there's 3 different editions that you can buy. It's just the standard, the deluxe, and then I think the legendary or something like that, or founders, that's what it's called. Sorry, I was writing that for another article, but the founders edition, there's going to be, if you get the deluxe edition, you'll get the first DLC, which is Crossroads of the World. Now, there's going to be 2 different releases for Crossroads of the World, and they've announced that there's going to be free content for all players, but you won't be able to get certain parts of it if you don't pay for it. The biggest parts are going to be the leaders and the civs. So in the early March window, which we don't know exactly when that is yet, that's why they put early March, you're going to get Ada Lovelace out of Great Britain. With that, you also get Carthage and Great Britain, which they showed off during the live stream for this content. They talked about how Carthage is actually going to be similar to Venice, which I'm really interested to see how that's going to be, because Carthage was its own city without a doubt, but it did have land that it conquered. There's obviously, Carthage was knocking on the doors of Rome with Hannibal, right? Like, there's a lot of history there, and I'm curious to see how they're going to do this, because Carthage was the main trade port in Africa, in the Mediterranean, for a very long time. So I'm intrigued to see how they are going to kind of use Carthage in that way. And then Great Britain's finally going to get added. I think some people have been really wanting this, right? We got the Normans, which are kind of close to to England, to Great Britain, but this one will be specifically the UK, Great Britain, the Isles up there north of Europe. And then you'll get 4 natural wonders, and apparently we'll get wonders with each of the civs as well. So we don't know what those are going to be yet, but we will, maybe see that soon. I would assume probably near launch day. I would assume we'll get a little bit more on this, because they're going to want people to actually, go and buy, this DLC. In the late March one as well, we get Simone Bolivar. We'll get Bulgaria and Nepal. Good to see a little bit more of some South American representation with Bolivar. I think that these are 2 very interesting additions. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. We haven't heard much about that, about Simone or Bulgaria and Nepal. Nepal, I think, is a really interesting one, considering it is such a unique culture and civilization. It's very isolated at times, right? It is, again, like the buildings for it and stuff are going to be really cool. Very excited to give that one a try. I have a feeling that may be a more religious-based one. We also don't know what eras these are necessarily going to be in. I'm pretty sure Carthage will probably be antiquity. I would be pretty shocked if it wasn't. And then I think Great Britain has a very good chance of being an exploration age one. And if not, then modern, right? I don't know. I keep going back and forth on it. If maybe they'll do England as the exploration age and then Great Britain as the modern age, or maybe they even came out about it and I didn't see that portion of the video. So that's all the stuff that you're going to get. I think it's a little bit less than what I would have expected for how much you're paying extra, right? I believe it's like an extra $20, so it essentially makes each one of these editions about $4 or $5, which I guess maybe isn't too out of the realm of possibility, but it is just a little bit of a letdown. I thought we would have gotten more leaders than this, but again, they're going to run this one, I think, a little bit more like what we've seen Paradox doing with all of their games, where there's just going to be a lot of DLC added to these games. Civ 6 really started going down that road after Civ 5 started kind of opening that door. I think the door is wide open at this point, and this is kind of what we're going to be looking at. Then there will be free content for everybody. Even if you don't get the Crossroads of the World, we will be getting, the major updates, so it's good to know that they're not going to be hiding the updates for this game behind closed doors. You also can use these leaders, or at least see them in game, if you're playing a multiplayer game and somebody else has this, so keep that in mind as well. And people really shouldn't be too surprised. They've always locked leaders and stuff behind their DLC. It's just that normally they release their DLC with like 10 or 20 leaders or something. Maybe 20 is too much, but a larger number of leaders. But I think they're changing that up because of the Civ and leader differences. But again, new event will be the Natural Wonder Battle, which I'm intrigued to see what that's going to be. The Bermuda Triangle will be added as a new Natural Wonder. And then in the late March one, we'll get the Marvelous Mountains event, which, both of these are really interesting. Very Natural Wonder related, right? And then we will get Mount Everest as well, which I think is a great wonder. I'm really excited to see that one getting added to the game. So we're getting all of that stuff within the first 2 months of release for Civilization 7, which is exciting. I think that shows their commitment to updating and adding new things. And again, I really want to focus on this leader civ split. I really think that is a major component of this. It's going to make the game much more open, as we already know, but there's just going to be so many new cultures and new people that are going to be added to this game. It almost makes it not an infinite amount, but pretty close to, there could be thousands of different leaders and civs that they could add, since they've kind of changed it from it just being, actual heads of state and military leaders to, people like Ada Lovelace, who is much more science focused. So really, really cool to see that already. Then we have the April through September release, which this worries me a little bit. So we get a lot here in these first 2 months. Then it sounds like the Right to Rule collection. Now, I don't know if it's going to be coming out in April, or if they're just using this as like a marker between how long it's going to be until we get more, right? So, April, May, June, July, August, and September. So that's a 6-month span. We're only going to get one more new DLC with 2 new leaders, 4 new civs, and 4 world wonders. So kind of exactly like what this Crossroads of the World DLC is going to be. You can buy, again, the Founders Edition will already have this. It will already have been bought, but I believe it's like $130 USD. So it's an extra $60, at least as of right now, for both of these DLC. And with it, you'd only get 4 new leaders, 8 new civs, and 8 new natural wonders. I don't know really how you guys all feel about that. I'll give my impressions a little bit more on this later, but at least wanted to go through this. Then you have the free content update, which will be new events, new challenges, and updates, and then more to come in October. So what that means to me is Right to Rule will probably come out sometime during the summer. I'm looking at probably June-ish, most likely, to kind of hold us over. And it sounds like Civilization will be getting new DLC, every 3 to 6 months, which is a lot, honestly. Like, that is a very good schedule for them. It's just the pricing that I'm having an issue with. And I guess I'll just talk about this now, and then I'll talk about the October stuff. I think it's a little bit expensive right now. I think an extra, $15, $20 would make sense. But an extra 30 essentially for both of these, realistically, this one's, I guess, a tiny bit cheaper, maybe, just depending on when you get the editions. And getting the early access and all the other things that come with, all the customizations that come with it. I guess maybe that, adds into the cost of these different editions. But I'm going to be really interested to see how they are going to price these DLC individually. If it's going to be closer to what I'm talking about, $10-15, I think that they're going to do fine. I think people will pay that, and depends on how much content they're going to add, right? When Paradox is still adding to games like Stellaris on a regular basis, because they do have a very dedicated fan base to it, and sometimes they do drop DLC that's like $30-40, but it's a huge overhaul of the game or massive changes. just adding a couple new leaders and a couple new civs. I know that is a lot of work, right? To be able to make make sure everything works with all the different civs. Like, the game is much more complex in that regard, right? To make sure there aren't as many bugs or anything with certain leaders doing certain things with certain civs and it getting messed up. And even, with most of the civs, it sounds like are going to have unique buildings, which are, even like their base, housing and everything will be, similar to what those civs actually have. So I understand that as well. And the new natural wonders thing, I don't know. I'd be interested to see. You guys can let me know if you really care about that. But it's just interesting to me. I'm not really complaining too much. I'm just used to getting more leaders, and maybe if I considered, I guess, the civs as leaders, this wouldn't feel as bad, right? Because that comes out to 6, new leaders and whatnot, which isn't too bad. But it's just it's a difference. It's a major difference to me, and I'd be interested to see if maybe I'm just overstating it, or maybe over-explaining it, or maybe just overthinking it. As for this portion, I think we will, like I said, get more in October. I think that they will directly add a big new DLC with a couple new leaders as well and new civs. And I think that they're just waiting to kind of reveal that. And I think it's going to be a bit of a cadence, every 3 to 6 months. Like I said earlier, I think that's going to be what they're going to do. I'm really interested to see, how that's going to work out, if it's going to be good or not. Now, I will say, this does say that these editions, I just read this, contain 6 DLC. So maybe the Founders Edition will go beyond the Right to Rule. Maybe that's the case, because if that's the case, then it's absolutely worth getting the Founders Edition instead. I just saw this. That may change a little bit of it. I will have to look into that a little bit more. But regardless, this is the timeline that we have. I will say there was some stuff that was leaked, that these were going to be the new leaders that we were going to get. This came out, a few hours, I would say, maybe half a day or the night before when they actually did the reveal for the content roadmap. You can check it out here at the Game House. But, we have Ada Lovelace, Genghis Khan, Lakshmibai, I don't know who that is, I apologize, and Simone Bolivar. So we already have these two for sure. It sounds like, in the Right to Rule, we're going to get these 2 individuals. Getting Genghis Khan, I think, is going to be huge. Then we have the new civs, so we know Bulgaria, Carthage, Great Britain, and Nepal are getting in there. So this feels like a pretty reliable league. It sounds like we'll be getting Assyria, Dai Viet, Silla, and Qajar, I believe. Again, I'm sorry, I'm butchering these. I'll know more once, I can hear somebody else say them when we're talking in these games and whatnot. But this is kind of how it's all laying out. Like, there's still a lot more to come. I think Genghis Khan being the big one in the Right to Rule is going to be a big deal. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in the DLC because of that. He's going to add a lot militarily, and it feels like that's maybe what they're going for, is each, time that they add a couple new leaders, they're going to fit into the 4 different victory types, with like economic, science, military, and I think maybe it's an influence one. I can't remember. My brain is totally farting on that one, but I would love to see what you guys think about this, because there's a lot that is still coming out. We're going to learn a lot more about this game, especially when it releases. Some of you may end up watching this after the release, right? You may end up seeing that, there's content out here about the DLC, and I hope that this has still been informative. We may even know about the Crossroads of the World one. And then we'll be talking about the Right to Rule, and once that gets revealed, I may do a little bit more of a deeper dive on that one as well. But you guys will have to let me know if you like it. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this video for CivHaus. So, thanks for watching, and from our house to yours, we hope you will join us for one more turn.